Man's virtue flows from three separate sources: desire, emotion, and intelligence. Knowledge is a wise man's treasure, but beware of false doctrines, for they are even more dangerous than ignorance. Forget all that you know, or think that you know. Abandon the hunger for power and enforce decrees. Look inward where the deepest rivers flow. There, you'll find the currents of eternity. And as always, my friends, welcome to my mania.
Genesis 32. Get ready for a rich man's attempted bribery and a completely unexpected fight with a stranger. When we left off,
we'll get to that in a second. What's happening, everybody? It's Jake Johnson here, coming to you live from the internet, somewhere in the backwoods of North Carolina, hiding from the man, hiding from the law. Get rid of that guy for a second. What's happening, everybody? Good to see you. I'm back. I got my own internet at my own house, and I'm happy. Issues. What's going on? Your tank ebbs more than it flows, or flows more than it ebbs? What's up, Great Sky Troll? Good to see you. You got a bell siphon. Supposedly it's just a thing. I couldn't tell you. I don't know a thing about tanks except how to lift them in the air and weld them to other tanks. I can do that. It's good to be back on Sunday. We're going to fight that atheist tonight and show him a thing or two. But first, can you hear everything okay? Is there any clipping or buffering or anything like that going on? From my side, it's all green, so hopefully it's that way on your side too. I'm good? Sweet. Let's see here. 5 times 5. 5 out of 5. What are the 5? Video, audio, internet. People. Me. 5 out of 5. Sounds good. 5 by 5. Is that a saying I don't know about? I gathered that it means that everything's coming out okay, but I don't know the exact context. We're at 5 levels of signal in military jargon. I got you. That's a big 10-4. I got you. 5-5 is good. I knew that it was good. I just didn't know exactly what the context of the comment was. I knew what you meant by it. Anyway, I'm back at the homestead. I'm happy to be home. I've been gone for 2 long years, and now I'm back, and I'm happy to be here. I said that already, but just as true the second time. Got a good internet signal. Nobody else is interfering with my internet. That's pretty nice. I got 66 megs, which is not the best in the world, but it's pretty good for what I'm using it for. And I'm about to have a whole new floor in my house. I just got to get to it and get it done. About to get my central heat fixed. Got the parts ordered to fix my bike. They're on the way. So I won't be stranded much longer. I even went to a party last night. Imagine that, me at a party. Woo! They were drinking and eating oysters. Still no heat here. Hopefully it'll get fixed tomorrow. I met a guy last night who offered to fix my shit for free. I just had to buy the parts. So you better believe I'm going to take him up on that because I got a big old timey central unit outside, the kind that used to go to the schools. Big joker. So I don't even know where I'd get parts for that thing, but he'd know. So it's pretty nice to meet people and get things done. Now, if I could just meet somebody that'd come in and fix my floor for me, so I didn't have to do it. I'll do it, though. There's no problem. And I got one leaky pipe to fix. All the rest of my pipes are insulated, so they're all good. But that one pipe's leaking. I got to fix that. And everything should be fine. And I got to wash my house with vinegar to get rid of all the mold. So for a while, I'm going to smell like a little old lady lives here. Which was true for a while, so I guess no big deal. Well, I hope you get your heat fixed tomorrow, too. That would be nice, because it's getting cold. I don't know if it's as cold there as it is here, but it got down in the 30s last night. %, humidity, which means it went right to the bones. Very cold. Still not as cold as I've experienced, though. When I went to North Dakota, that was a whole other world of cold. I don't ever want to experience that again. I was wearing 3 layers of clothes, thick clothes, and I went outside to smoke a cigarette. I was outside for about 7 minutes because that's about how long it takes me to smoke a cigarette. And I started getting tunnel vision. I mean, it was that cold. I was going out. I could feel myself going out. And I reached up to go inside and the door was locked. And everybody in the band house was wearing noise-canceling headphones so they couldn't hear each other snoring. So I had a decision to make. I could either make a run for the store, which was across the street, hope I made it, or kick the door in. So I chose B and kicked the door in. Because I wasn't going to stay outside another minute. I thought I'd die. I mean, my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even hold a pick to pick the lock. Or even attempt to. So that was not a good night. And I had to go the next day and buy some shit to fix the door with. But it was worth it because I didn't die in the freezing. But I could see how somebody could be outside a little too long in North Dakota in the dead of winter and never go back in. I imagine that happens a lot up there. But then again, the people that live up there are accustomed to it, I did see a couple of Indians running around with nothing but a t-shirt on. Or no shirt. And that blew my mind because I was freezing. But I guess when you're used to it, you're used to it. Either that or they were so hopped up on drugs they didn't care, one or the other. That could have been it. Because that's like a very big meth area where I was at. So they might have been just hopped up. Who knows? So where are the girls at? They ain't got here yet. Or they hadn't started talking yet, one or the other. Still says it's just me and you. And one other person who isn't talking. Nope, nobody else is talking. But there's somebody here watching. Might be the censors. They might be sneaking up on us. What do you think, Great Sky Troll? You think it's the censors or you think it's just one of the girls that hadn't started talking yet? I'm kind of trying to wait for them before I get started because I know you ain't crazy about the atheist thing. But they like it. And I like it. So I built a house off the grid once. The crew were staying in a nasty, ratty hotel an hour away. I posted up inside an earth move bucket. Earth move. You slept in an earth mover? Is that what you're saying? You slept in a bulldozer? But it can't be that bad of a sleep if it ain't cold. It is nice and rounded, kind of like a bathtub. Under the bucket. Oh, you wasn't in it, you were under it. Okay. But hey, gotta do what you gotta do. I've slept in some pretty ratty places. I ran away from home one time to save a friend of mine. I ran away from home. I told my mom I was leaving and when I'd be back, but he was running away from home, so I went with him so that he wouldn't be alone on the streets. And we walked for hours and hours and hours, and we found a mattress factory, and it was cold. But it was like Florida cold, so it wasn't really that cold, but it was cold to us. About 14. So I took my pocket knife and cut the mattress that was outside and peeled it back and got inside of it and covered up with all the cotton and the rats and everything else. And that's where I slept that night. And I woke up in the morning with people working. Imagine what they were thinking when they saw me pop up out of that mattress. Then I got my friend and went to the soup kitchen and got him some peanut butter and some soup on bread, peanut butter on bread, some soup. And that's what we ate. Anyway, I was on the street for about 2 weeks that time. But my friend didn't get murdered or anything, so I guess I did all right by him. And it was an experience for me. I got to see how the other side lives. I've never been so grateful to be lower middle class. It was stupid cold, but I had unlimited wood and a couple of barrels burning. And a tarp. You know how I adapt. I do. You're as good as I am at it. You make do with whatever you got. I had a full camp in the evening. Yep. You're as good as I am at that. I don't care where I'm at or what I'm doing. I will survive. I'll find a way. I know how to build a fire and I know how to catch a fish or kill an animal. I'll do it with a screwdriver if I have to, according to Redbone. You're a Johnson boy. You'd jump out the tree with a screwdriver and kill a deer if you had to. Well, I guess you're right. Is that old man still alive, Redbone, or did he die? Hey, Missy, what's happening? Wrapping gifts. That sounds fun. Thank you for joining me. Glad you're here. We're going to get started here in a minute. He did die? I thought he might have. That's sad. I like that old crazy drunk. I can relate. I wonder where the girls are. I guess I need to text April and tell her I'm online. I only missed two Sundays, and you'd think that they would understand. April. Online now. Pass it on. Technology. Internet is slow. Whose internet's slow? My internet's not slow. My internet's banging. Catholic Traditionalist, Jake Johnson Band. Do you have a link or a phone number so that I can participate? I can show evidence for God. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing here, Catholic Traditionalists. And you can participate just by texting, because in just a minute we're going to be playing an atheist, and I'm going to be rebutting his every thought. I'm going to dismantle him like a weed eater, like a pack rat on crack. I'm going to take him down. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew and I'm ready to rock and roll, if you know what I'm saying. So hang out with us, and glad to have you. Press that like, subscribe button if you would. Join us. We're here every Sunday at 8 o'clock. And Monday at 8:30, I do a Bible study. So if you want to check that out, you can do that too. But Wednesday and Friday, we just hang out and talk. Whatever comes up, comes up. But I'm glad to have you here, and you can check this out just as we're going. We're live right now, so just jump in whenever you feel ready. Oh, Lord. I think I might have broke my table. No, I did not. I just sprained it a little. It's good. Okay, I'm going to get started anyway because they're not here yet. Well, maybe they are. It says we got 5 watching, so here we go. Strap in and buckle down. We're getting ready to go. Here's the friendly atheist.
Genesis 32. Get ready for a rich man's attempted bribery and a completely unexpected fight with a stranger. When we left off...
Stranger, yeah. Wait till you find out who that stranger is.
Jacob and his cavalry of wives and babies were heading back home to Canaan, which means we'll eventually run into Esau. Big drama to come. But first,
Well, considering Esau is his brother and that's where he's going, I would say, yeah, we're probably going to run into him, but I don't think it's going to turn out quite like you think it will. It's been a long time since Esau wanted to kill his brother.
Let's take a trip on this biblical Oregon Trail. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim. Just because you see hitchhikers doesn't mean you need to name the place after the hitchhikers.
They're not hitchhikers, buddy. They're angels of God. Did you not read that? You just read it. Angels of God. That's a little different than a hitchhiker. And I would imagine if you happened upon an angel of God, you'd be pretty impressed too, if you knew who you were looking at. So, and naming things was kind of what they did in those days. So that's not unusual.
Also, the place has a name already. You may not know it, but that doesn't mean you get to suddenly change all the road signs.
Well, he did, so clearly he does. Do you not know how conquest works? Well, let me explain it to you. Some normal people build a place and they live there like nomads. And then come some white people and they take over and they rename everything. And then you have places like America. It's not really that unusual, so deal with it.
Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom.
Hold on. Are you having trouble hearing him or are you having trouble listening to him? I react badly to smug idiots too. But I want to make sure you can hear him. Which is it? So I can turn him up a little bit. Moving on.
He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my lord, that I may find favor in your eyes." He sent messengers? What about the angels we just saw?
That was a different thing. He met angels. They were there to guide him, but he's going to see his brother. And yes, in those days we didn't have telephones or internet, so he sent messengers ahead of him so that they would know he was coming. And he also sent message that he was coming bearing gifts in hopes that he wouldn't have to fight his brother, who last time he saw him told him he was going to kill him. So if you were under those circumstances, you'd probably want to schmoozed away also. Sure, yeah, I get it. He's fine, but very annoying. Yes, he is. I mean, his volume is good. Right, I got you. Well, I just wanted to make sure because sometimes it doesn't come through as good. Hey, April. But yeah, the whole point is he's supposed to be annoying. That's why it's a fight. If he was fun and happy and everybody liked him, it wouldn't be much of a challenge for me, now would it? I picked a guy who was smart enough to challenge me, but smug enough to be the bad guy. That's how dichotomies work. So, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy. Maybe it works, I don't know. I think it does.
Forgotten about them already, or did Jacob see angels and think, you work for me now?
No, he didn't say that, and he doesn't think the angels work for him. They greeted him. He was happy to see them. In those days, it was a regular occurrence to see angels. Not so much anymore. Hey, Kevin, what's happening, buddy?
Listen, angels, if my vengeful brother wants to know where I've been for the past couple of decades, just tell him I was avoiding his wrath by staying at our uncle's house. And ... I am protecting myself with a suit of armor made entirely of infants. Why is Jacob saying...
Now, where did you get infants from? Why are you making stuff up, Mr. Atheist? You're not having any trouble keeping your worldview together, are you? Because it sounds like you're having to make things up to justify your own means.
He's the servant of Esau? Because a few chapters ago, we learned Esau was the servant of Jacob. Maybe Jacob's trying to get on his brother's good side now, which is why he's also bribing him with animals and slaves.
Now, you see, when he said, this is your servant speaking, that's the same thing as saying, this is your friend speaking, or cordially inviting, or sincerely yours. It's how you would end a letter. It's not saying he thinks he's his servant. It's a pleasantry. It's a nicety. If you knew a little bit about colloquialism, or if you knew a little bit about Hebrewisms, you would understand that this is how they greeted each other in those days. He's not saying he's his servant. He's saying your servant beckons you, or your servant calls to you. It's a letter. He sent messengers, That's part of the message. Keep up.
Or maybe he just forgot. This book is really hard to keep straight. When the messengers
I reckon it is hard to keep straight when you keep making up meanings of things. You're adding a whole bunch to it that ain't there. It's very simple. A man went into a country where he knows a man used to be mad at him. So he sent servants ahead of him to try to ease the pain. So when he gets there, maybe they could have a cordial meeting. Not that complicated.
Turned to Jacob, they said, we went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him.
He's coming to meet him halfway, and he's bringing an army with him, so Jacob is nervous at this point. He has no idea what's coming.
Oh yeah, this is gonna end real well. Esau just wants to say hello to the brother who took everything from him. Well, Esau and 400 of his man friends.
Well, kids will be kids, and that's kind of the way Esau sees it. However, Jacob doesn't necessarily know that. Jacob thinks he's probably still holding a grudge.
In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into 2 groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. He has 4 wives. I wish I could have heard the conversation where he divvied them up. You 3, stay with me. 4th.
Yeah, make sure you let me know if she answers, April, because I'm worried about her too. I didn't see her on Friday night.
Wife, you and all the babies can just stand over there. Then Jacob prayed, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become 2 camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau.
Notice that he's praying to the Lord, which is something you should do before you proceed into any situation. Say a prayer, because having God on your side helps immensely.
For I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which can...
This is a little bit overzealous on Jacob's part, because if he trusted God, he would know that God kept his word, as he always has. God said he would prosper him, and so he should trust that. But he's still nervous because he's a human, and he doesn't know that God will protect him from his own brother.
Not be counted. Smart prayer. Hey God, remember how you promised to protect me? I'm just trying to remind you, in case you forgot. I need to cash in on this prayer right now. Interesting thing about this prayer, though. This seems to be the first time in the Bible where a character is talking to God, even though God's not literally there.
First of all, these are not characters, these are people. This happened. These are people that lived on this earth. This is a record of an event. You're thinking about it like literature, which is why you have the biggest problem in the first place. Because you don't trust the history of your world. Because you're accustomed to your scientists writing bullshit books and you learning from them. No wonder your spidey senses are going off, because everything you've ever read is full of garbage. This book, however, is not. So, trust your ears and your eyes.
It's the first real prayer, which means that, like all prayers, no one is listening. I think this is also the first prayer that didn't involve the murder of an animal.
By the way, it's not the first prayer in the Bible. You just said that because you're aware of sacrifices, which are included with prayers in those days. So you know it's not the first prayer. And if you think no one is listening, maybe you should try it. Just because the answer is no does not mean someone's not listening.
The anointing of a rock. Turns out animal sacrifice and idol worship was totally unnecessary. Who knew? He spent the night there.
It was not totally unnecessary. At one time, it was meant to atone for sins. The only thing that covers blood is blood. You see, when Jesus died on the cross, he became the sacrifice, which means there's no longer a need to sacrifice. Before that, there was most definitely a need to sacrifice. Get up on your history.
And from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young.
What did one sheep say to another sheep? There will never be another ewe.
40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me, and keep some space between the herds." Wow, how's that for a housewarming present? Some people bring a nice dessert, maybe a toy for the kids.
He brought a herd. He wants to make an impression because he doesn't want his brother to hate him anymore. He knows he did wrong. His brother knows he did wrong. One of them has outgrown it. Guess which one?
Jacob is giving Esau hundreds and hundreds of animals. Imagine not seeing your sibling for decades and then announcing your arrival with a gift of 20 donkeys. It never works.
It works this time, so you're wrong.
Trust me. I mean, Jacob could at least give Esau a shovel, too. And talk about leadership. Just in case Esau's army attacks, Jacob tells his servants to take the animals and go ahead of him. You know, just in case. He instructed the one.
How many armies have you ever studied? Have you ever noticed where the generals, the leaders of the armies, take up post? Usually in the back. That's a safe place to be when you're about to go to war. I imagine that Jacob knows this. He's preparing in case Esau wants to go to war, being that he's bringing 400 men. That could be quite a battle. So, like any good general, he takes up position. Mom is sleeping. Okay. She's sleeping a lot. I hope she's doing okay.
In the lead, when my brother
Everybody say a prayer for Aunt Darlene real quick, please. Thank you.
Esau meets you and asks, "Who do you belong to? And where are you going? And who owns all these animals in front of you?" Then you are to say, "They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he he is coming behind us. He did not instruct that guy on how to avoid a beheading, which seems like a noteworthy omission.
I would imagine they knew very well how to avoid a beheading in those days, considering how often it happened. But, hey, what are servants for?
He also instructed the second and third and all the others who followed the herds, "You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, 'Your servant Jacob is coming behind us.' For he thought, 'I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead.'"
Yeah, because he knows that he's the guy Esau really has a problem with. I imagine he knows he's not going to behead his servants. But he might behead him. And he's trying to avoid that by placating him with gifts.
Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. You know, all of this is Jacob's way of saying, "I know I screwed you over back in the old days, but I'm rich now, so don't hurt me."
Or maybe it's his way of saying, "I'm sorry." Have you ever considered that? That maybe there's a compassionate lean here? Maybe he's saying, "I'm sorry." After all, he is coming to him.
Billionaires, they are always the same. They just assume money will fix everything. That night, Jacob got
Money usually does fix almost everything.
up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female
Anybody that ever said money don't make you happy didn't have any.
servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. 2 wives, 2 servants who are also wives, but who apparently don't count as wives, and 11 sons.
I know those would be called concubines, not the same as a wife. They are for procreation and for servitude, but not for love. Although most wives aren't for love either, because most of the time in those days it was an arranged marriage. It was about business. It was about prosperity. It meant different things then to those people than marriage means to us now, so you can't judge them against us, because we have a different way of living than they did.
You might remember that Jacob also had a daughter named Dinah. You might remember that. Jacob apparently doesn't, because she's apparently not a part of his entourage.
Maybe she's married and out of the house. Or maybe she's there and just hasn't been spoken about because she's not part of the story.
Or maybe she is and she's just not important enough to mention, which means this is another example of the Bible not caring about women. In any case,
you are such a feminist. I don't mean that as a compliment.
Jacob is now all alone for a moment. The first bit of peace and quiet he has had in decades. I hope he enjoys it and nothing goes wrong. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak.
See, if you had an actual Bible, you would know that that man who wrestled with him had a way of coming about. And he was a certain individual named Gabriel, the archangel, who speaks for God. So basically, God wrestled with him, which is where the name Israel comes from, because Israel means to wrestle with God or to struggle with God. You see?
When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob...
Also, that real Bible lets you know that this was quite the struggle. It wasn't just a little friendly wrestling, and he didn't just touch him on the hip. He damaged him, and still Jacob wouldn't let go. Jacob was bound and determined to win that fight, and neither one of them would relent. Jacob would not give up, no matter how much punishment. The angel had to kind of cheat and strike him with a limp so that he would let go, and he still didn't let go until daybreak. Finally, he offered to bless him, and that's what made him let go. Jacob wasn't giving up. Jacob had the fight of a lion in him, and he was quite the adversary to this angel.
Jacob replied, "I will not let you go until you bless me." What the hell just happened?
Jacob won that fight, if you want to look at it that way. At the very least, it was a draw with concessions. Jacob got a blessing out of it from this angel, whom he wrestled with the entire night till daybreak.
Where did this man come from?
Heaven.
Why are they wrestling? What is?
Because it's symbolic of the nature of the Israel people, the Israelites. It's a symbolic gesture because this is the relationship Israel will have with God throughout the rest of history. Kind of like button heads almost. It's very apropos. And if you would pay attention to the actual Bible, you'd get this detail because your Bible leaves out some important parts. Not by accident either. You are willingly ignorant of the truth. In the Greek, that's dumb on purpose.
What is the family doing during this fight? Just watching from a distance? And what wrestling match ends with the winner saying, "Bless me, or I will keep beating you up"?
The wrestling match that you have with God.
Some Bible translations say the man touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh.
Yes, causing him to have a limp for the rest of his days. The hollow is where the socket joins the hip. He broke his hip. That's what he did. So, he caused him a considerable amount of pain and damaged him for the rest of his life. He would have to suffer from this just to win a wrestling match because he was not going to give up.
Which could be considered a biblical euphemism for penis.
No. You have penis on the brain, or more specifically in the mouth.
Adds a whole new meaning to, "I will not let you go until you bless me." I can't believe this isn't even the first time in the Bible we're talking about men touching other men on the thigh.
Yeah, because you have a dirty mind, and you don't seem to understand that the thigh and the penis are two separate body parts. And they're not all that close. There's a lot of thigh. There's a little penis. Get penises out of your head.
The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Whoa! M. Night Shyamalan is writing the Bible now because plot twist.
Plot twist, it's been there from the beginning of this chapter. You're the only one who hasn't seen it because you're too busy thinking about penises. Peni, penises, peners, peni. I'm going with peni. Stop thinking about penises.
The mysterious man wrestling with Jacob is God.
Yeah.
Which means God was losing a wrestling match to us.
Yes. And it was designed that way to see how much Jacob would take. Not because God couldn't win, but because God fought him mano a mano. That's man to man. So he did it in a flesh form. You understand?
Immortal. It also means God didn't know Jacob's name, which is weird. If a stranger...
It was God by proxy. It was actually Gabriel the archangel doing the wrestling, but it was God through him. That's the relationship he has with that particular angel. And he asked him his name symbolically because he was about to change it. It was a rhetorical question. This is not hard to understand. This is grade school grammar. Come on, man. The context is all right there in the chapter. All you got to do is read it, and it will tell you. But again, I stress, get a real Bible.
Man was fighting you. Why would you tell him your real name? I tell Starbucks my name is Bob. But Jacob is in a headlock and still handing over his social security number, which is probably something like 5. But anyway, now Jacob has a new name because everyone renames everything in the Bible.
Nope, only 3 times. 4 times.
Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him.
Also a rhetorical question, meaning, don't you know who I am? Say my name. You know what I'm saying? Jacob knows who he's fighting.
in there. It took all of one sentence for the Bible to forget his name is Israel, because he's still Jacob. And spoiler,
Israel is a title.
he's gonna keep being called Jacob. God renamed him and no one cares.
No, he renamed him in the book of life. You understand? Everyone that knows him as Jacob. Everyone that knows him was not there when God renamed him. And he's not going to go around saying, oh, my name's Israel now. My name's Israel now. Everyone who's important knows he's been changed. What's important is his soul has been changed. He is now on the path of the promise or the covenant of God. That whole wrestling match was a test. You understand? God does that.
But listen to Jacob. Tell me your name, weird man I'm wrestling with, who just told me he's God and that I have a new name. Why?
He never said he was God. You made that up. Because you know who it is, and I know who it is, and Jacob knew who it was. Why is this a problem for you? Everyone seems to know who we're talking about here.
Why is God acting like a superhero afraid to reveal his identity? I'm God. Yeah.
Because some people don't understand rhetorical questions, apparently.
Yeah, but what's your real name? Don't worry about it. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face.
Interesting that he named it Peniel. You have a gland in your brain called the pineal gland, which is responsible for, in folklore, as being able to see God through your third eye. Interesting. Mama texted you? Okay, good. I'm glad she's okay.
And yet my life was spared. Look at how relieved he is about this. I met God and he didn't murder me. This is a good day. Peniel, by the way, means face of God, which is probably better than penile, which is totally what all of you thought it was.
No, we are not idiots. It's totally what you thought it was until you looked it up.
And totally what I'm calling it, because it is where people wrestle and touch each other in the groin region. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip.
Notice that he said hip and not thigh or hollow. And notice that they don't eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip as a symbolic gesture, meaning that that is the place where God touched him. In the tendon of the socket of the hip, he broke his hip. It's very clear. So why did you make a big deal about it a minute ago, like you didn't know what he was saying? Trying to make it sound like he was touching his penis. Because you're a weirdo, and you don't want people to know the truth. The truth is, he broke his hip, and he will limp the rest of his life, and all the Israelites and all the Jews won't eat that tendon as a symbolic reverence to God doing so.
Because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. There was a pointless wrestling match, and that's why Israelites don't eat a very specific part of meat.
The same part of meat that he touched on his body. Do you understand why they don't eat that meat? And April, that's okay, baby. She can watch this video anytime. She don't have to watch it live.
As someone who doesn't eat meat and doesn't know what hip tendon meat tastes like in relation to other meat, this whole section would...
It would be gristly because tendons aren't usually the thing you eat. Which means they're not really doing anything unusual by not eating it.
Make way more sense if it just tasted bad and people didn't want to eat it. And
Why?
They just had to...
Why would that make more sense? Because that would lend to your worldview that there is no God? Because you can't make sense of a simple story that is obviously allegorious to something else much deeper in meaning? Sheesh, man. Maybe you should go back to grade school.
Explain to their kids why they were throwing that part away. all of Genesis up to this point has been a long explanation for why Daddy's throwing away a disgusting piece of meat. So to summarize,
that disgusting piece of meat would be thrown away anyway because you don't eat tendons, they're gristly.
Jacob is scared of his brother Esau, but ready to bribe him.
Esau is a wild man who has hunted and lived in the wilderness his whole life. Jacob is an inside cat. Of course he's scared of him. You would be too if you met a grizzly man.
With everything to get back on his good side. But before he can seal the deal, he gets in a wrestling match with the Lord for no reason whatsoever.
For a very specific reason that your book left out. Read a real Bible. It will tell you why they did it.
And that, kids, is why carnivores don't eat hip tendon meat.
That is not why. It's because it's hard to chew.
Which might...
And for the Jews, it has a special meaning.
Just mean penis. I have never been happier to be a vegetarian.
I would be willing to lay my last dollar down that you've tasted penis before. I'd bet money on it. I could be wrong, but you look like the type. So, what are you talking about? Man, oh man, that guy annoys the shit out of me.
Genesis 33. Jacob and Esau meet again. And Jacob is still the worst brother. Fresh off his wrestling match with God, Jacob is finally ready for his reunion with Esau. Will it be reconciliation or murder? With the Bible, those are really the only two options. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men.
And what a sight that must have been. Esau was very tall. He had hair from head to toe. He was very hairy. He may have even been one of those people like those Mexican guys with the hair all over him, look like a wolf man. He may have been one of those kind of people. I don't know for sure, but he had a lot of hair and he had bright red hair. So he probably looked like a flame coming across the desert in front of 400 men. I would be terrified, and so was Jacob.
So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. Ranking family members in order of importance is really the best way to remind everyone of where they stand. Rachel and Joseph are important, so they're in the back. Female slaves and their children are in the front though, just in case Esau's men barrage them with bullets and machetes.
Or maybe he arranged them from tallest to shortest. You ever thought about that? Or maybe it was from relation to non-relation. Or maybe it was from male to female or female to male. Or maybe it was from parents to people without children. There's any number of reasons why he lined them up. But he lined them up mostly so that Esau could see them as he approached. And he went ahead of them, in front of them, which is where he should be, the man, in front, facing the danger head on. You're trying to make something out of something that's not there. Grow a penis.
Biblical love may be unconditional, but it doesn't mean you can't play favorites. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant."
It's almost as if he put them there to be seen by Esau. And it worked. So Esau asked about them. Maybe it was a presentation of his family, which is what it sounds like. And you'll notice that all is fair in love and war, but when you haven't seen your brother in decades, you really just want to hug him and give him a big old kiss. And that's what Esau did, because bygones are bygones, and there's no reason to hold a grudge. He's made his life. He's made his peace with his lot in life. So there's no point in hating his brother over what they did as children. His brother, it wasn't even his idea. It was his mother's idea. And he probably knows that by now because grown-ups know things that children don't know. So there's a lot going on here, most of it emotional. Try to keep up.
What is the point of having an army of 400 men if you don't use them? Awful writing. Esau's embrace of Jacob also...
You know how Jacob didn't know whether Esau was still mad at him or not? Well, Esau didn't know whether Jacob was coming to settle his score or not. They both were prepared. You see, it was an uneasy meeting. But when they met, all of that went away and they were just happy to see each other. So that's why those people were there, not for any other reason.
Also means that most of that last chapter was pointless. It was all about the preparation to meet him and the caution Jacob was taking, and it turns out it was all for nothing. And imagine the conversation that says, who are these people? That's wife 1, and wife 2, and wife 3, and wife 4, and child 1, and child 2, and child 3, and child 4, and by the way...
So you do know why he lined them up the way he lined them up. Isn't that amazing?
You're their uncle. Better start saving up for their Christmas presents. Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. That is a very short passage to describe a scene that must have taken at least 7 hours.
Again, this isn't a movie. This is a story of real life. So it's not a scene. It's an event that happened.
Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met?" "To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Esau's like, "You know how you sent me a zoo?"
Oh, Nicholas? Are you paying attention or are you just responding out of rote? Because it sounds to me like you're talking to me like I'm an atheist. Pay attention to what I'm saying, son. I'm talking sense. And I'm defending the Bible. I don't have any squabbles with what it says. I don't have any moral quandaries. And I understand the difference between truth and fiction. So hang out, press the subscribe button, pay attention, you'll learn something.
In advance of your arrival? I'm good. I'm sending it back. You pay for shipping, though. No, please.
Oh, were you talking to him? I'm sorry, my bad. I'm on the defensive. Yeah, you're absolutely right if you were talking to him.
Please, said Jacob, if I have found favor in your eyes, accept this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and I apologize for jumping the gun. I was just running and gunning, and I saw the comment. But you're absolutely right. He, has a worldview, and when he reads something, first of all, he's reading the NIV, which leaves out a bunch of details that are very important to the story. And then, when he reads something he doesn't quite grasp, he makes up something to go along with it, so it sounds like he's right, which is the problem I have with him, because he's misleading people. So I'm putting this video out to correct the record. And I've been through every one of his videos up until now, and I will go through all of them concerning the book of Genesis. So I hope you hang out, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show, and jump in anytime you have something you'd like to say.
Gift from me, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you."
Esau was well-to-do himself now, so he didn't need Jacob's gift, but he took it as a gesture of friendship, because he understood what Jacob was trying to do. He wasn't trying to buy him, he was trying to atone for his own misgivings. And Esau saw that, and they made up, so now they can live the rest of their lives together as a family, because they put the past where it belongs in the past.
No one knows what it's like to see the face of God more than the man who's just wrestled with God. Though it's
Correct.
kind of weird to say that Esau, the hairy monkey-looking dude, reminds Jacob of God.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying that it's glorious to see his brother again. He's saying that he looks awful young for being gone decades. He's saying he loves his brother. It's not hard to understand. He didn't mean it literally, like the actual face of God, which he also didn't see when he wrestled with him because he was wrestling with Gabriel the archangel, who was in the place of God, or the vicar of God, the substitute.
If someone told you, I ran into a hideous beast the other day and I thought of you, it would not be a compliment. God should smite him. But I guess
I think you should probably watch how you tell God what to do. God knows very well what to do, and he doesn't need you to explain it to him. That being said, why are you calling Esau a hideous beast? He was a hairy man, but in those days that probably came in handy.
that means God is a redhead. A very hairy redhead.
Adam was a redhead. David was a redhead. Esau was a redhead. Quite possibly Jesus was a redhead. Some translations lend that idea. However, he was of Jewish descent and probably had woolly dark hair. But there is some scriptures that describe him as glowing and having his hair being fair, which means red or blonde in those days. So it's quite possible that if God has hair, it's red. That being said, it doesn't really matter what color his hair is or if he even has any. He's God.
And look at Jacob. No.
He will exegete and criticize Scripture in accordance with his underlying assumptions that don't derive from God to begin with. Thus, he was to flesh out where they do derive. Yeah. Otherwise, this is sound and fury signifying nothing. Yes, talking out of his butt. He's running off at the mouth. It doesn't mean anything. And if you listen to this guy, you don't have any common sense talking about people in general, because it's very clear that he'll say one thing and then 2 or 3 lines later he'll say what the truth is and mock it. But he says starts with a lie. So if you just pay attention, he'll catch himself. I'm just pointing it out most of the time. It's quite entertaining at the very least, but it's not accurate.
Oh no, brother, seriously, keep the animals. I can't deal with them. They are your problem. Really, take them. Now. At least the brothers are returning home together. It's a happy ending.
Correct. They have made up. They no longer want to kill each other, and Esau has forgiven Jacob for taking his birthright, which was his mother's idea in the first place.
Nothing can possibly go wrong now.
But
But Jacob said to him, My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard, just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and herds before me, and the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord and Seer. Interesting. Jacob says, you take the front, I'll take the back, we'll meet up later. Do it for the sake of the animals. Esau.
Yeah, because if you know anything about animals, you know they've already went on a long journey, and they're probably exhausted, and if you push animals too hard, you see, they don't sweat, they pant. Which means if you push them too hard, they'll die. You can run a dog to death, or a horse, or a sheep, apparently. So this is not unusual.
Said, Then let me leave some of my men with you. But why do that? Jacob asked. Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord.
Probably because I haven't seen you in 4 decades, and I'm a little bit suspicious about your intent. This is also normal.
So that day, Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth.
Yeah, probably because they needed shelter for a few days. Maybe they were tired.
It's been 2 minutes and the brothers are already arguing over nothing.
Didn't sound like an argument to me. It sounded like one went home and one went over here for a little while and then he'll meet him there. That doesn't sound like an argument.
That is the most relatable thing I have ever seen in the Bible.
And yet you made it up entirely. Imagine that.
Esau's pushback is intriguing. He's telling Jacob it's fine if he wants to bring up the rear, but he wants some of his men right there with him. Not a lot of trust in this family.
Would you trust somebody you hadn't known for 4 decades, or however long they were apart? That sounds to me like Esau is being cautious, and probably has every right to do so. Not a problem.
But Jacob convinces Esau to let him walk alone. Sneaky. Did that just say Jacob went to Succoth and that's why he called it Succoth? You don't.
It did say that because this is a book which has a reader in mind. So when you lay out a narrative, sometimes you have to explain the meaning of the narrative. Not because that's how it happened chronologically, but because there's a reader reading the story. Come on, man.
You get to take credit for that. I once visited Chicago. That's why it's called Chicago. But check that out. Jacob decided to take a detour. Instead of going to Seir, he went to Succoth. And
why does that bother you? Maybe he wanted to take in the sights. Maybe he had business in Succoth. Maybe he didn't want to stay at his brother's and impose on his already generous forgiveness. Maybe he didn't want to wear his welcome thin. Maybe he thought it was a good idea to take it in small baby steps rather than just moving in with the guy. Is any of this ever occurred to you?
Built a new home there. You would think someone would have noticed the disappearance. After Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem.
By the way, Jacob didn't disappear. He went to Succoth, and everybody knows about it because they wrote about it in the book.
Canaan, and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver, he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. What was the point of building a house and a stable in Succoth in the last section if he quickly went to Shechem? And now
maybe he had business in Shechem. Maybe that's on the way to his brother's house. Maybe he just wanted to take in the sights. Maybe there's not good altar building areas in Succoth. Why is this a problem to you? It's just telling you where the guy went. It's not like he's plotting against Esau or anything. He's just traveling.
He's buying real estate? He is never gonna make it home at this rate. So Jacob was finally reunited with Esau.
So it was on the way to his brother's house. So to get from there to there, you have to go through here. Okay?
His first order of business was telling another lie. Esau has been screwed over repeatedly in the Bible, yet he embraced his brother when he finally saw him again.
So why do you think he lied to him? He didn't lie to him. I didn't hear him say anything that was a lie adjacent.
Esau has been the good guy during this entire story arc, and no one cares.
Everyone cares. That's why it's in a book. That's why we're reading about it. What are you talking about? Was that the end of it?
Genesis 33.
Guess it was. One more.
Genesis 34. Remember Dinah? She's one of the biblical women with a name. That means she's important. But her story is...
Do you mean Dinah, the one that you were talking about in 33 that didn't have a name and wasn't important because she wasn't mentioned at that time? That Dinah? The one that you're talking about now who's being mentioned now. So all that feminist stuff you were talking about earlier was really retarded of you to say, right? You see what I mean, Nicholas, about him lying first and then admitting it later but twisting it? This is an example of that.
Bananas from the very beginning. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her.
In the actual Bible, it talks about him spreading his skirt over her. Only in your Bible does it refer to it as rape. Now, he did take her forcefully, but not necessarily against her will. You see, things happened differently in those days, and I'm not justifying it. I'm just telling you that it isn't necessarily rape. However, it probably is, and I believe this is the part where it talks about if you take a woman and she has to either go home to her father, which won't have her because she was taken, or be married off to someone who won't marry her because she was taken, then it's your obligation to marry her and give her a good life. If you can't contain yourself and you take a woman, then you must take care of her. I believe that's what this story is. We'll see in a moment, if I'm right.
And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." Okay.
So he did marry her, so that's not a problem. That's the way it was done in those days.
So, in order, he raped her, loved her, said nice things to her, then decided to force her into marriage, not...
Well, you got one of those right. He did have sex with her, but it wasn't necessarily against her will. Because in those days, it wasn't like it is in these days. And women, it was a different thing. So, being a man, he probably found her very attractive and took her there on the spot rather than courting her. And now that he's done that, he has to marry her because he's already taken from her the thing that is valuable to her. So now he has to provide for her. That's what marriage is. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that's the way they thought in those days.
By asking her, but by telling his own father. I will never understand purity culture. And how old is she?
This is not purity culture. They just had sex. That means that he wasn't thinking about purity. Come on, man.
Right now, there is a really good chance she's barely...
Why is rape morally objectionable in his view? He has no other place to appeal but to his subjective whims, correct? And that book, NIV, calls it rape. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked at the verse, but I don't think that it calls it rape in the actual Bible. I think he just took her in the field that day. It's called spread. I believe this is the verse that talks about him spreading his skirt over her. And if that's the case, that was his intent to marry her right there. And in those days, that's how it would have went. Or the parents would have arranged it while they were still children. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that marriage was, they went about it differently in those days than we do today. And you're right. He complains a lot, but he tries to compare 2,000 years ago to today's standards and sensibilities, and it just don't fit because they were different people back then. They were savages. I'm going to look at the Hebrew English lexicon and see what the word actually means. If I had a moment, I'd do that also, and thank you for doing that. But I'm pretty sure that that verse talks about him spreading his skirt. I don't think it calls it rape. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I don't think I am in this case.
Double digits years old. When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he did nothing about it until they came home. What? A man raped my daughter? I am so mad that I'm gonna wait a few hours before I even tell anyone about it.
Well, what would you have him do? Run out and kill the man? He doesn't know for sure what happened. He's only got one side of the story. And again, I'm not entirely sure we're talking about rape as much as we're talking about just taking a woman forcefully, which is today considered rape, but then not so much. But in some cases, they do consider that defiling a woman because now she no longer has virginity, which is the value of a woman in those days. So I guess you could call it rape, but he intends to marry her, so that is what negates it. That's what turns it into something different. If he left her there in the field, he would be guilty of rape. Which verse dealt with the alleged rape? I believe it was Genesis 34, somewhere around 1 or 2. It's between 1 and 7. It's right there in that first part of 34.
Then Shechem's father, Hamor, went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done.
According to their culture, this is a thing that should not be done. But according to that man's culture, that's not necessarily the case. You see, we're talking about two different peoples here. That man took a woman that he found to be attractive because he intended to marry her. So he went ahead and got his prize up front. Now, according to the Jewish people, this isn't how you go about it, which is why the kids were mad about it, the brothers. They didn't like it a bit. But she ends up marrying the guy, so everything works out in the end.
Well, it should not be done everywhere, not just Israel. Also, he did not sleep with her.
Yeah, he did.
He raped her.
I'm not so sure it was put that way. We're about to find out. Nicholas is on the case.
As any biblical literalist would tell you, language matters. But what's
Yes,
disturbing is that
language does matter, and I'm so glad you said that, so stop twisting language. It does matter. The intent, the context, and the meaning matters.
they don't explicitly say why it's outrageous.
It's outrageous because in the Israelite culture, you court a woman or you are arranged at birth or soon thereafter. You don't just go take a woman. In the Gentiles world, it's quite all right to do so. Sounds like justified rape because he agrees to marry her, correct? That makes no sense to me. I must admit I am confused. However, she did marry him afterwards. That also makes no sense because it wasn't necessarily rape. She didn't necessarily go against her will. You see what I'm saying? It was forceful. He did take her. He saw her and he took her. But it was not necessarily against her will because she was looking for a husband. And they married. So they just did the consummation first. They did it. They put the cart before the horse. But not what you would consider rape, as in he hit her in the head with a pipe, had his way with her, and then left her there in the field. That's not what happened. So it should make a little sense. You have to understand we're talking about savages over 2,000 years ago. It's not like the world we live in today. Things were a lot rougher then. And when a man saw something he wanted, he usually got it.
Is it because of the act itself? The lack of consent? Her age?
Nowhere does it say she didn't consent. And by the way, I'm not justifying his actions. I'm just explaining what happened. I don't agree with the way he went about it. But that's the way he went about it. April is a savage and I like it.
Because she's single? Who knows? Technically, once he defiled her, they were as good as married already.
Correct, because according to Moses' law, when you spread your skirt over someone, you are in fact married. When you have sex, that is betrothal. You are married. The actual writing it in a legal document came later. They didn't have marriages then like we have now. It was a matter of something between you, her, and God. So,
Ready if we use the other biblical marriages as a guide.
and it could be argued in those days that you cannot rape your wife because that's her purpose in the first place. In those days. Not saying I agree with that, I'm just saying.
The only exceptions to that rule seem to be Jacob and Rachel and Jacob and Leah, which required 7 years of labor each. Maybe that's what...
That was a different story. He worked for his wives, and he put in a lot of time for them, so he earned them. They are his by right. This case, the man just took what he wanted. But it's not rape because he married her. And if he takes on her dowry, as it were, meaning he pays her way, she is his.
Why Jacob is so mad. He had to work for his wife.
Okay, so to lay down means either to rest or to have sexual relations. I'll look into it a bit more, but I think in light of the context, it would be more plausible to infer it was referring to forced sexual relations. Right, but they got married, so that negates the whole rape thing, which is what I meant. I don't think it was rape as we understand rape to be. It was rape in that he took her without permission, but it wasn't against her will because she married him. Now, you could argue that she didn't have any choice but to marry him because he took her virginity. So no other man's going to want her. That's her choice. So you could say that it was forced in that way, but she did agree to marry him, which means she didn't hold it against him, apparently. The term savage in this sense is a shopaholic, crazed redhead who attacks me and demands, well, you know. Damn, Kev.
Wives, Shechem just took one. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife."
Sounds like he had his penis set on her, too.
"Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves."
Now, you see, that father just fixed the whole thing because he offered his daughters in return. So now there are two big families who are now together, and that brings power. So you see, ultimately, not necessarily the beginning, the context, but ultimately this worked out in everyone's favor. This is a complicated scenario because when you put feelings involved, somebody's getting hurt. Somebody's getting wronged. But when you look at it like a business transaction, everybody worked out in their favor. So this was a good thing, ultimately, that these two got together. But to call it rape is a little misleading because it wasn't exactly rape. It was forceful, but she was a willing participant.
"You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." In the Bible, women are property.
Yes, now you're getting it. This didn't change until the 1960s. Women were considered property. They were also considered, quite frankly, useless because they couldn't do the things that men could do. Very few of them could anyway. So when a daughter was married off, the husband usually paid a dowry, or his father did. That means that he paid for the daughter like the exchange of property. That's how things were done in those days. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but that's the way it was. So to point it out and then go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened." Well, you should read some of the other stuff that's happened in those days. It was a tough world we lived in for a long time.
They are commodities. This is a perfect example. "We want your daughter. In exchange, we have some girls we'll give you. Let's trade."
Yes. Now you're just pointing out the obvious. Should I refer to you as Captain Obvious?
They'll be fine with it because they have no other choice.
Right.
Nothing says let's call a truce like letting your sons bang each other's daughters.
Right. That's the way the world works. I'm sorry. It's a brutal world we live in, but that's the way it works.
Jerry Falwell Jr. approves this message. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife." This guy raped their family member, and now he's offering them money so they'll just let it slide.
No. They're not letting it slide. He's offering to buy the girl and take her as his wife. which means he has some kind of feelings for her, and she probably has for him too. Just because you have forceful sex doesn't make it rape. Some people dig that. Have you ever read 50 Shades of Grey? If you took that out of context, you could not only call it rape, but abuse. But because they like it, it's okay. Kevin is playing, but it's very true. Ha ha!
Is straight up evil. Sell me your women. I will write you a blank check right now.
And April, I was raised with you, honey. I know what kind of girl you are.
Memo line, wife. But at least the boys have their sister's back. They are going to say no because they would never allow their sister to marry a man who assaulted her.
Well, in their eyes, that's the way it happened. And I'm sure they're going to get theirs.
What's that? No? Okay, I'm being told that is not the reason they opposed the marriage. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males."
This is called a conversion, and it's normal even to this day. When people of different faiths get together and get married, one of them will convert. This happens, even today. So it's not unusual.
"Then we will give you our daughters, and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you, and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. You can't marry our sister with a..."
You can't marry our sister until you convert to our religion and take it seriously, which involves circumcision. Guess what he does?
Penis like that is a thing I never want to hear from anyone ever. I swear, everyone in Jacob's family lies about everything.
What lie have you heard? What are you talking about? There's no lies being told here. Everything that is said has been above board. No lies.
Stepping back for a second, they are now making a deal with their sister's rapist, saying, "We don't want you to marry her." But instead of explaining why, they make up a lie about the men in his city not being circumcised. Because
that's not a lie. Those men were circumcised. That is their religion. Not a lie. You just don't understand.
Surely no one would command every guy in town get circumcised just so he can get married.
You haven't read the Bible, have you? Not only that, there was a place in the Bible where one king demanded that everyone pluck out their right eye to swear fealty, and they did.
That would never happen. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. Oh my God, they are going through with this. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter.
And by the way, when you're an infant, it takes about 8 days to get over a circumcision. When you're an adult, it takes about 8 weeks, and it is excruciating. So this is quite the commitment this guy goes through. His whole town, or at least his whole family, goes through so that he can marry this girl that you think he raped. Think about this for a minute.
So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms and they will settle among us. How about it, men? I really want to get married, but instead of buying me a wedding gift, I just need you to unbuckle your pants. No, it's not a bachelor party. Someone hand me a knife."
By the way, in those days, a marriage like this would be beneficial and sought after because it would raise one's status. Because when you intermarry, you share in the wealth. And if you marry into a wealthy family, you by proxy become wealthy. So you see why this is a sought after relationship.
To be clear, the only reason all these men are going along with the plan is because it'll make them richer.
Yes.
If Jacob's daughter joins their tribe, it'll increase their net worth, and they'll do anything for that.
Yes, because money is hard to come by even then.
Anything. Of all the reasons you might consider slicing off your foreskin, would you do it in exchange for some cows?
If I was starving to death, yes.
The men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. Really? No objections?
Not one. You know why? Number one, they understood the meaning behind it. And number two, it increased their wealth significantly, which is why they did it. So, yeah.
Everyone's getting circumcised so a rapist can marry his victim? Tribalism is dangerous.
Have you heard her say she was a victim? Because I don't recall that part. Sounded to me like she was a willing participant. Which makes it different than what you think it is. Which means your entire argument is wrong. Has no basis. Just because you call it that, don't make that what it is. No, Nicholas, he is not dishonest. He believes what he says. That's what is crazy. I am with you, brother, that he is way off. Yeah. Yeah, he does believe in his own garbage, I think. Sometimes I think it, and sometimes I think he's being dishonest. I don't know which, but either way, the end result is he's wrong. But sometimes it sounds an awful lot like he believes his own hype, which is terrifying that there are people that believe this way, but what can you do?
Who has the honors of making the first cut? I mean, I think
that would be a moil, which is a Jewish person whose profession it is to perform circumcisions. Moil. Look it up.
I think Dinah deserves at least that. But at least this means the happy couple can get married and live in harmony forever.
Yes.
Right? 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city,
killing them all, and they had their revenge. Just like I said before, they're going to get theirs, and they did.
Killing every male.
Now, out of this story, who do you think is in the wrong? I'm going to say something that'll probably confuse you and also surprise you. But the brothers are in the wrong here. They committed murder, which is far worse than committing a sexual act. It's far worse than marrying a Gentile. And there were other reasons why they did so. It wasn't just because they had his way with their sister. It was also because they were Gentiles. And they didn't want to intermingle. And now they can't because they killed the whole lot of them.
Holy crap! All of those men were still screaming, "Ow, my dick!" And Dinah's brothers slaughtered them.
While they were in a weak state, which is not a heroic way of doing battle. This is a coward's attack.
That's kind of amazing revenge. They could have killed everyone before the circumcisions, but they decided to let the men have their foreskin chopped off
so they wouldn't be able to battle properly. Think about it. This is a coward's attack. The brothers are in the wrong here.
Gave them a few days to just be hurt, to the point where they could barely move, then murdered them.
Yep.
This is the weirdest thing to happen in the Bible 3 days after something bad. Can't be topped.
Oh, yes, it can.
I am sure of it. I just want to state the obvious. Those townspeople did nothing wrong.
Right.
They were tortured, then killed for nothing.
Right.
Way to slaughter the innocent, God.
Right.
Interesting.
Which is why the brothers are in the wrong. The man who took the girl forcefully may have been in the wrong when he did that, but he did it honorably by marrying her. He found the honor in his error. These boys just committed murder outright, lots of it. So they are most definitely in the wrong here. As bad as that may sound, and as morally ambiguous as this is, that is the correct diagnosis. They're wrong.
Side note, there is a book of Judith, which isn't officially part of the Bible. It didn't make the cut for the Hebrew canon, but it exists. And in that, it says God gave Simeon the sword that he uses right here. If that's the story, then God not only condoned murder, he helped it happen.
Well, as you said before, this is not a book of the Bible. This is a book written by someone who is fantasizing. It's not real. There is no book of Judith. And if there is, it's fiction.
One more side note. According to the rules of the Bible, women who aren't virgins are not allowed to get married.
Which is why she agreed to marry him, because the very thing that made her valuable was gone now.
So by murdering Dinah's potential husband, they just sentenced her to a life of singleness.
Yes.
Not only that, it means she has to be celibate since she can't technically have sex unless she's married.
Yes.
Her brother's act of revenge actually means she'll never be able to have sex again.
Yes. And now you see the ramifications of the wrong that they did. They weren't just wrong in one way, they were wrong in many ways. So let that be a lesson to you. Revenge is mine, saith the Lord. So if revenge is mine, saith the Lord, why would he have provided them with a sword? That's contradictory, which means your book is wrong. Pay attention, read the actual Bible, and learn.
She has to be angry about this, right? They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left.
See, she was already living with him. That'll tell you where her heart was.
The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the house.
So they can add thievery to murder and dishonor and all manner of other things they did. They broke several commandments here. They are most definitely in the wrong.
How dare you rape our sister? We're gonna kill the men and kidnap the women and children because we are the good guys. Has anyone asked Dinah if she's cool with all this?
No, and she wasn't. And by the way, these brothers are not the good guys of the story. As weird as it is, Dinah and Shechem are the good guys.
Of course not. Why do I even ask? Some versions of the Bible say, and I'm paraphrasing here, the sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city because they had defiled their sister, which suggests every man in the city had sex with her. All of them. Then Jacob said to
those versions of the Bible are as wrong as your version of the Bible. Read the King James Version. That is the only version of the Bible whose lineage can be traced back to Antioch directly. It is the purest, most correct version that exists today. It is the inspired Word of God that God promised he would leave on this earth for man to have. All other versions are incorrect, and it's not an accident. The scribes and Pharisees had a lot to do with it. They worked for the devil. Their job is to confuse you, to sow confusion and immorality. If you want real truth, read the real Bible.
Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. Jacob.
Yeah, you see, not only did they bring dishonor about their house, but they put him in danger, mortal danger.
Jacob is annoyed with his kids for going too far and committing genocide. Not because they killed people, but because it makes Jacob look bad.
What do you think genocide means? It's absolutely because they killed people.
And it might upset the other tribes in the area who may now seek vengeance. What a lesson to teach your kids. When committing genocide, kill the neighbors too.
Or don't commit genocide, you moron.
But they replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? Okay, that took a weird turn. The boys are defending their murder spree because a man raped their sister. As if
you can't rape a prostitute. Make up your mind. Either he took her as a sexual object, or he raped her. Can't have it both ways. And you also don't marry a prostitute. So somebody's wrong. It's not me.
One awful action deserves another. Also, don't shame people for sex work. That's unnecessary.
So why did you do it? You're the guy doing it. Nobody else said it but you. You're the person who's shaming sex work.
Guess what? That's the end of the chapter. It ends with two boys telling their father they went on a murder binge because their sister was treated like a prostitute.
At least they were honest about it.
Should be a fun one to explain in Sunday school. You know, when a priest asks, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? The word take is not supposed to be taken literally.
Really? Have you paid attention to the definition of the word take? It is literal. And that's exactly what a man does when he takes a woman.
And yet Shechem's tribe stole Dinah, violated her, then got slaughtered as a result. And Jacob's sons just stole all the women in the city as spoils from their act of mass murder. One last side note for you. According to David Plotz, who once blogged through the Bible for Slate, a Christian friend told him that the beginning of this chapter, where Dinah went out to visit the women of the land before she was raped, was used at her church to teach little girls why they must be obedient. Dinah went out for a night with her Canaanite girlfriends, and look what happened. She got assaulted and everyone else died. Therefore, ladies, just stay home and bake or something.
Well, number one, that school should be shut down because nobody should ever teach children things like that. This verse or this chapter should not even be taught in Sunday school. Number two, they're not wrong. You probably should be home, or you should at the very least, if you're a woman, dress for the business you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? And number three, why? Why would you even tell people that? You're trying to use what someone else did as proof to discredit a Bible that you're not actually reading from. I'm thinking you might be grasping at straws here because you don't actually have a good case.
One day, maybe the Bible will teach us a good moral lesson, but not today.
Really? You don't find any morality in that, what you just read? Like, don't commit genocide because it's wrong. That's a good moral lesson. Or, if you take a woman, you should probably marry her. That's a good moral lesson. Or don't lie to your father. That's a good moral lesson. You can take a bad story and find good in it. I don't know why you can't seem to see that, other than the fact that you're just trying to find reasons to complain about the Bible, which you're not actually reading from. You're reading from a cheap copy of the Bible, which is one reason you have it so screwed up. The other reason is your worldview, which I have effectively damaged today. And that is the last of the 3 videos for this evening. Please take a moment and hit that like button and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications when I'm going to be here. Share this video with somebody you love. Hey, share it with somebody you hate. Either way, it works for me. Leave me a comment down below. Curse me, bless me, question me, challenge me. Challenge yourself. Let's have a fun. Smash that like button and share this video. But if you like what I've done and you'd like to help me keep helping you, go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. It's a win-win. Everybody gets something in this deal. It's a tax write-off for you. It's a benefit for me. Everybody's happy. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate your patronage. And with that, I will take your questions and comments. Aha. That was interesting and fun. What do you guys think? Did y'all get anything out of this story? Who'd have thunk it would have ended in genocide? Apparently the atheist did. And I don't think he understands why that's bad. But I could be wrong too. Tell me what's on your mind. Have you guys finished shopping yet? Or are you still in the store? Sports update. Tampa Bucks and Miami Dolphins both won. Go Bucks, go Fins. They weren't playing against each other, were they? Because that would be awkward. What you think, Kev? Hey, Kev, when's the next time you're going to that casino? Daddy needs some carpet. I'll send you some money to go with you. Let me know when you go. I can't gamble because I'm not good at it. I'll end up owing them money. You seem to win every time you go, so let's work up a deal. No, Bucks beat the Falcons. Dolphins beat the Patriots. Okay. One day I may understand sports. It's not going to be today. You guys ready for Christmas? Got all your shopping done? I hadn't even started. I got 4 days to go and I hadn't even been to the store. Of course, I don't have a ride, so I got to wait till somebody give me a ride to the store so I can not shop. But I am planning on doing a Christmas special, so you guys be able to join in for that. I cannot stand sports otherwise. I was happy to see the Bucks and the Dolphins win. Woohoo, I can't stand sports otherwise. Yeah, I don't know anything about sports, but I enjoy reporting on it because it makes Kev happy, and I like that. And Nicholas, if you're still here, thank you for joining us. I hope you join us every week. I'm here every Sunday at 8 o'clock doing this very thing. Every Monday at 8:30, I do a Bible study, which is where I read through the Bible and explain what it says. And then Wednesday and Friday, we have a chill stream where we just hang out. I'll play the guitar. We'll talk about any manner of things. And everybody's welcome. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And I'd sure appreciate you coming back. I enjoyed your input, and I like the fact that you were engaging with us. And I hope you enjoyed it too. And whoever that other person was, the Catholic person, who only mentioned one thing. Let me see, what was the name? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Where's it at? Da-ba-da-da-da. I must have lost it. Where'd it go? There it is. The Catholic traditionalist. If you're still here, please come back. We enjoyed having you too, even though you didn't say anything. Except that one thing. But I don't think you understood what this was. Because you were offering evidence for God, and I proved God's existence with the dumbest question ever known to man. You ready for this? Which came first, chicken or the egg? There's proof of God right there. because the only thing that could have came first would be a fully formed, fully grown chicken and a chicken mate. Because without two chickens, you have no material to make an egg, and chickens come from eggs. So the chicken had to be made first, which means God had to make the chicken first, fully grown. He couldn't have waited. I did not win the last time, really. I may go before Christmas. We get all grandkids on Christmas. It's not cool to take 3, 4, or 5-year-olds to the casino. I understand that. Well, you win more often than I do anyway, put it that way, and I could use some good luck, and I do actually need some carpet for my new living room floor. So when you go, please let me know, and I'll see if I can't send some money with you and have you place a few bets for me and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? I could lose a little money. I'm broke already, so that doesn't matter. When they turn 8, they can go and gamble, drink bourbon, and smoke cigars. At least 8, sure, but not 7. That would be child abuse. I started smoking when I was 13. I remember the day. It was a Marlboro Red, and it made me high as a kite. When I was walking down the road with 2 other friends, and they were smoking, and they asked me if I wanted one, and I said yes. I lit it up because I wanted to fit in with my friends, and I ain't ever stopped. Been smoking ever since. But now I make my own cigarettes, complete with filters. Bright green shag carpet is my favorite carpet. Just a suggestion. Well, I'm probably going to go with a charcoal gray because that's my favorite color. But I like shag carpet too. Fluffy. I like the feel of it on my toes. You started at 13 too? That first cigarette was a doozy, boy. It made me high as a kite. It's never done it since, but that first one sure did. I couldn't even walk straight. I was like I hadn't had a V8 leaning. I enjoy a good cigarette though. It's nice. Oh. So anyway, I have no idea how much carpet is going to cost, but it's not going to be cheap. I know that. Nothing's cheap. And I may go with an area rug if I can find a big enough one. I don't know. The wood that I have is finished plywood, so it doesn't have to have anything done to it. It's smooth. I could just layer it with some lacquer and be done with it. Just use hardwood floor, but I don't know. I kind of like the carpet. The carpet I have now is mauve, and that's a hideous color, but it's all moldy and irreparable. I don't think I could clean it well enough to put it back, so got to replace it. Plus, it's 100 years old. Well, 50 years at least. So it's time for a new look. And I think I'm going to go charcoal gray or dark, almost black. If I can find it in that color. We have no carpet. I don't know if I'd like hardwood floors. I don't think I'd like sand on my feet. That feeling, that gritty feeling, I don't think I'd like that. And I'm not the world's most responsible person, so it ain't like I'd be sweeping every day. The kitchen, I'm just going to put linoleum back in there. That won't be that expensive. I might even go with those little square sticky tiles. You know what I'm talking about? You get them in boxes of 10, about a square of them. And then they got to peel off back and you stick them down. But I'm going to put actual glue down and place them. I might go that route because that'll probably be cheaper than buying linoleum. Wood and stone floors. But anyway, I like the charcoal gray you're talking about. Yeah. You got stone floors? That's odd. I got to sweep all the time. Yeah. When you got hard floors, you got to keep them clean or you can feel that grittiness on them. But I don't know. I'm not opposed to it, I guess. If it's cheaper than carpet, I might go that route. Might get that little snap together hardwood floor that you can get. You know what I'm talking about? It's like tongue and groove and it slides together. I might do that if it's cheaper than carpet. I don't know yet. But I got to do something because I'm getting ready to put that floor in this week. And I ain't planning on walking around on plywood for very long. But first things first, I got to get my bike fixed. So I've already ordered the parts. And I'm waiting for them to arrive. And when they do arrive, then I'll be able to get it fixed. So I've decided I'm going to sell my truck. Use the money to buy Christmas with. Because it's going to be awful expensive to buy a new transmission. I might as well just buy a new car. Yep, that's the plan anyway. Sell my truck, take that money and pay a few bills and buy some Christmas, and put the rest of it down on a new vehicle. Or another vehicle. It won't be new, but it'll be another one. I might get a little tiny car. I might get one of them little Datsuns or something. Something good on gas. I really need a truck because I have trailers and stuff that I have to carry. But I don't know if I need one as big as the one I got. Might get like a Ford Explorer or something. The SUV. As long as it'll pull a trailer, it'll be fine. Well, that'll be worth it, and you'll find another one. Sure. Oh, yeah. It'll probably cost a flat $1,500 if I were to try to fix my truck, so I can get almost that much out of it if I sell it, so I might just go that route. Transmissions ain't never cheap. But I still have a motorcycle, so I won't be stranded once I get it running again. They have good deals now on vehicles everywhere. Well, I'm not going to buy a new one. I'm going to buy a used one from somebody. Probably get an $800 deal somewhere. Or $1,000. I've been looking for a couple of days. I've seen a few, but nothing that's really caught my eye yet. The only problem I'm having with it is having to do it all so quickly. I had planned on taking my time getting back into the house, but events unfolding as the way they did, I had to get back in a hurry. So I was kind of pushed into doing it quickly. I have a used one. It was worth $20 for a Fiesta. Yeah, I had 10,000 miles when I got it. That's not too bad. Are you saying it was a 2020 Fiesta, or are you saying it cost $2,020? Yeah, Fiestas are good little cars if you can stand riding in the tiny little things. That old one your mama had went through hell, and it kept on running. Ooh, it was a 2020. Gotcha. I've never owned a vehicle that was the same year as that I was in. Most of the cars I've ever owned have been 10 years old or older, so I'm accustomed to that. It's not that small. Is it bigger than the one your mama had? I got you. Probably go with some kind of Datsun or Toyota truck or something, or a Ford Explorer or something like that. Unless I can find another Suburban or Yukon or something like that, I might do that. What I'm driving now is a Suburban, the big one with the extended cab. This is the first year I've ever had a car in this century. I know that feeling. I've had a bunch of them that were in the other century. But I'll get something in a couple days. It won't take much longer. I'll find something and whittle it down, get into it. I just have to budget properly because my money is so sparse at the moment. I used to be rolling in dough, but when that COVID hit, that shut me off quick. I ain't made a dime except on this podcast since January. No, this isn't the verse you are thinking of, Jay. Whoa, you're late. Are you sure about that? I think it was. Well, we're home now. Good. It's almost 10 o'clock. You made it. Either Missy's internet is really slow or you're way behind in the conversation because that was almost an hour ago that I said that. I think that's just her internet. I think she's already gone. If you're still here, Missy, say hello. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's just her internet finally putting that message out. She wrote that a long time ago. Very slow. That was in response to me saying that I thought it was the verse about spreading the skirt over the woman and him taking her as his wife, which it was. Well, we love you too. And it's 10 o'clock, so it's time for me to get on out of here. One more time, real quick. Press all the buttons and do all the things and go to paypal.me/Jake Johnson Band if you enjoyed tonight and you want to see more of it. And I will see you guys on Monday with the Bible study at 8:30 Monday afternoon. And we will finish up the book of Luke. I believe we'll finish it up. We'll get pretty close to it anyway. I enjoyed tonight. I love you true with all my heart. You guys have a great night. Enjoy your evening. Kick back and relax after a hard day of Christmas shopping. I'm going to watch some Tucker Carlson and go to bed. I might not watch Tucker Carlson. I don't think he comes on Sunday, but I'll watch something. 2 more joiners? Excellent. We're getting there. I told you we'd start growing by the first of the year. Anyway, I love you guys. I'm out.